Hello everybody, welcome to the I Am IT YouTube channel. My name is Shabazz Dan. As ever, I am the IT Geek. Welcome back to another episode within my Microsoft Entra Deep Dive series. We are about 6 episodes in, I think. This will be the 5th or 6th episode, I believe. And we've obviously covered a lot of ground already. We've covered the first part of this sort of Entra portal, Microsoft Entra portal, or admin center, like users, groups, devices, and applications. So we have got another great episode in store for you as well, where we're going to again do a bit of theory and then spend most of the time in the admin portal, digging deep into how to configure certain aspects of Microsoft Entra, that specifically Azure Active Directory at the moment, but also looking at some theory as to what are certain aspects of it, what do they mean, how can you use them. So before we continue, I did a book. Well, I've done a couple of books giveaways. By the time, because I'm recording these in bulk, because they won't be announced yet, but I will be announcing them as and when people enter the competitions. So today in this episode, I'll be giving away another book. So this is Managing Kubernetes Resources Using Helm, and this is by Andrew Block and Austin Dewey. So this is another packed book, and again, I've done a review of this, and I'll put the link to that review in the description for anyone who wants to watch it before they get it. So same rules apply as the previous one, where you can enter by you have to be a subscriber first of all. Then you can you have to like the video, and you have to comment on the video, the hashtag IamITGeek. Finally, you have to share this video, the link to this video, on one of your socials, be it LinkedIn or Twitter, again with the hashtag IamITGeek. And I'll do a search for the hashtag, and I'll pick a winner out at random. So now that's out of the way, let's get started with this episode. So, as I mentioned, this is the I Am IT Geek Microsoft Deep Dive, Microsoft Entra Deep Dive series. Just want to recap what we covered in last time's episode. So it was all about Azure Active Directory applications. Spoke about enterprise applications. What are enterprise applications? What are some of the features? And I did a bit of a demo that we looked in the portal to configure one and show all the settings you can configure. We then looked at app registration. Same thing. We looked at what is it. Some of the features, and we configured it in the portal, and then showed you some of the settings you can configure as well. And throughout the episode, I spoke about different best practices, how I've used it, in real world scenarios as well. So in this episode, we are moving on to, again, further down the portal in the admin center, looking at Azure Active Directory roles and admins. So we're going to talk about roles and admins first of all. Then we're going to look at administrative units, admin units, and then look at delegated admin partners. So the first topic to cover is roles and admins. Now, with roles and admins, it obviously covers not just Azure, but Azure, not Azure AD, but also Azure. Now, I'm going to specifically look at this part is just going to be around Azure AD admin roles. Okay, further in the series, I am going to look at I think it's under identity governance, where we'll look at the difference between Azure AD roles and Azure roles. But for now, we're going to focus on Azure AD roles. So let's jump into the portal and have a look. Welcome back. So here we are in the Azure Active Directory, the Microsoft Entra admin center. And specifically, as I mentioned, the first part is that Azure Active Directory, and we are on roles and admins. So click on roles and run admins here. Here we can see all the different roles, all the different Azure Active Directory roles. As I mentioned, there is a difference between Azure Active Directory and Azure roles. So we will look at that further in the series, but at the moment we're going to focus on Azure Active Directory roles. Now, first of all, the top, it tells you what your role is now. Obviously, I've been a bit naughty. This is my tenant, it's my demo tenant. I am a global administrator of that, but this will tell you what your role is, so depending on what role you have. And then again, it gives a bit of an explanation here as to administrator roles I use for granting access for privileged actions in Azure AD. So this is all around zero trust. Okay, so using the Azure AD roles, you can minimize the amount of access you give people, and you essentially giving them access depending on what their role is within the organization. So they might be a developer, they might be just a first line support, and again, like a first line support, a developer, they don't need global admin. for first line support, they probably need reader access and probably user administrator access potentially. So yeah, it's about giving people the minimal access just to what they need to complete their job really, facilitate their job role. So as I said, as we go down here, we can see all the different A to Z. There's loads of Azure AD roles, all the way to starting with application roles. And again, you've got different levels. You've got the application administrator. Again, you get an explanation there. It can create and manage all aspects of app registration enterprise apps, whereas the application developer can create application registrations independent of the users can register application setting. Then we go down, we've got authentication roles here, billing role, compliance, conditional access, loads of roles, all for different aspects of Azure Active Directory, all the way to obviously somewhere around here. If we look at global reader, global administrator as well, Intune administrator, down to printer technician even. So again, another thing to note is these are all built-in roles. So if you know for specific that a role that's already available is going to suffice, then you can just use one of the built-in roles, and you can tick this, and you can, if you click on here, you can look at the description in a bit more detail, look at the assignments, and then obviously look at the role settings. So you can add an assignment from here. You can look at the role settings from here. Again, this is all around privileged identity management, PIM. We are going to be looking at PIM later in another video, which I'll further on in this series, so I'm not going to ruin it all here, but these are essentially the role settings for the Kzala administrator. Bit of a strange one to pick, but I just picked it at random. So look at the activation settings. You can activate maximum duration for 8 hours, assignment settings here. So again, you can edit these as well from here. Again, we're not going to, this is out of the scope of this particular video. Like I said, we're going to cover in identity governance. Is it identity? Yeah, identity governance. We are going to cover PIM, and that's where I'll cover more of this. So I'm going to create a role in a second, a custom role. So as I said, these are all built-in roles, but say that you've got a role that is in between. It's not quite one role. It might be a bit of, might be a bit of an application administrator, and you might need to have some authentication policy admin. Some of these features, some features from this role. You can create a custom role. Now we are going to look at that in a second. First of all, once you go further down here, you can look at access reviews. Again, access reviews are essentially to allow you to essentially ask for more access. So you can schedule an access review to ensure the right people have the right access to access packages, groups, apps, and privileged roles. So you can scope it to all Microsoft 365 groups and guest users, or select teams and groups here. So if we just click on, you can select groups here, and then we can again an option. If we go further down here, we can scope it to guest users only or all users, and look at the reviews here. So again, these are all configurational settings for the review. We've got upon completion settings here. We've got enable reviewer decision helpers and advanced settings here. So these are the settings and creating the settings for access reviews. And this is where these are the settings. So when someone, a user or an administrator, requests additional access than what they've already got, this is all the review settings. Okay, so we're not going to quite configure that. Again, this is something I'd like to look at down in PIM here, because we've got again access reviews are normally part of PIM as well, but at the moment we're on roles administrators. So what I do want to do is I want to create a new custom role. So let's click on new custom role, give it a name, IT Geek custom role, give it a description if you want. This role was created as demo. So we've got two options. We can either start from scratch or we can clone from a custom role. So if you know what, this is going to have, it's going to be all of sort of Intune. It's going to need all the sort of permissions that Intune administrator has. You can clone that, or you can start from scratch. We're going to start from scratch, and here you can see all these permissions. It's kind of like, what do these mean? So you can essentially look down the description. It's like a shopping list really. So you know what, it needs read all properties. It needs to have read owners on application policies. It needs to be able to delete single directory applications and so on. You can just pick and choose. And you click on next, and that is essentially creating a custom role. And there you can see it's different because it's got an orange on. The custom role has like an orange little square there, whereas a built-in role has a blue one. So that's how to create a custom role. Again, you can delete this custom role. The option there is highlighted. You can delete it. Click yes. And again, you can use built-in or the custom roles. So as I mentioned with access reviews, these are to allow organisations to efficiently sort of manage your group membership, access enterprise apps, and role assignments. And essentially users can be reviewed regularly to make sure that the right people have that continued access. And as I mentioned, you can click on new access review. We don't have any at the moment. You can select the groups, teams and groups here. Select a group. Let's just stick AVD users, so this is going to apply to them. And then we can either scope it. So access reviews for service principal requires an Entra workload identity premium plan. Well, we're not doing that. It's not for a service principal. We can do it for all users. And then here we can actually look at the review settings, and we can we've got a multi-stage review. So add up to 3 stages of reviews to complete the review. Again, a bit overkill, I think. Again, it depends on what your process and policy are. But again, I don't feel like there's no best practice way to do this. But if we click on group owners, and then fallback reviewers can be, let's say, the AADDC administrators group. So specify the recurrence of the review. How often do you want to review it? Now, if you're doing regular reviews, again, no best practice way, but you don't want to do it too regularly. I'd say it's like I'm going to do once a week, 7 days. Review occurrence, do it monthly. And you can give a start date and end date there. And then we will go into settings. Again, upon completion settings, auto apply results to resource. If reviewers don't respond, what do you do? No change, remove access, approve, or take remediation recommendations. I would probably remove access because you need to, again, it's all about zero trust, I think, so I would remove access. And at the end of review, send notifications. You can send notification to an admin or the user or a group if you want. And then enable reviewer decision helpers. So again, this is to enable decision helpers. So you can do if you don't sign in within 30 days. If enable system recommends reviewers to deny users who have not signed in within 30 days. I think that's a good one to enable. And then we can go down to advanced settings. So justification required. I think this is always good to enable. Get the requester to justify their permissions. Again, notifications, reminders as well. Then you can review and create. So we're not going to create that. Well, that was just a little step by step on how to do sort of access reviews. So let's jump back into the presentation now and see what the next topic is. Welcome back. Here we are back in the presentation, and we're going to now move on to administrative units. Now, again, just a quick explanation around, administrative unit is an Azure resource that can be a container for sort of other Azure resources. An administrative unit can contain only users, groups, or devices. Essentially, it's to restrict permissions to a role to any portion of your organization that you define. So an example of this is, use an administrative unit to delegate, for example, a help desk administrator role to a regional support specialist, so they can manage users only in the region that they support. That's like an example of where you could use it. So let's jump back into the portal and have a look at it and get it configured. So here we are. Welcome back. We are in the Microsoft Entra Admin Center again, and we are on administrative units, so we've moved a bit further down. So do a little explanation as to what they are. Let's have a look at how we've got non-configured at the moment. Let's look at how we can configure them. So click on add. So here we give it a name. IT Geek admin unit. Bit of an explanation. This admin unit is for a demo. Next, we need to assign the role. So again, we've got all these different roles here we can assign. As you can see, it's not all of them are available. So we've got, authentication administrator, cloud device administrator, and so on. We're going to go with print administrator for now. So we select that, and then we select the who do we want to add this assignment to. So you notice we've got users, not groups here. So we need to assign it to a user. So where's Bruce? There he is, Bruce. Let's add Bruce, and as you can see here, it's assigned to that user there, and we can do that for all these. Authentication administrator, we could assign to Geek admin. User administrator, we could assign to there's Mohammed Sajid. Let's assign Mohammed Sajid some rights, shall we? And then, so again, you can see this is just assigning them, and then let's review and create. So we've created an administrative unit called IMIT Geek admin unit. And we've assigned these 3 roles to these 3 people. Click create, and that'll assign them. So still creating it, so I'm going to show straight away. It might take a bit of time, but essentially that's how simple it is. Not sure why that's not showing. Administrative unit. So it's create the administrative unit, but there we go. As is with the Azure, any sort of Azure portal, it's always takes a bit of time. So as you can see, I don't know why it's created 2, but it has done. Here we can see all the role assignments here. Let's go back to this one again. I'm not sure why it's created 2 here. Bit of a mistake there by the look of it, but essentially that's as simple as that's how you create one. For some reason it's created 2, which I feel like is a mistake. Let's just delete one, see if it hopefully won't delete both. And you can come in here and you can again add members, add groups, add devices if you want. You can look at the different roles here as well. You can add that assignment if you wanted to. So that's essentially administrative units within the Azure Active Directory portal. Let's jump back into the presentation and see what the final topic is. Welcome back. We are back in the presentation, and I believe we are on the last part of this topic of roles of admins, and we're going to talk about and look at delegating admin partners. So let's hop back into the portal. Sorry, we're in the presentation. Let's go back into the portal and take a look. So here we are back in the Microsoft Entra Admin Center. Welcome back. Specifically looking at the delegated admin partners. Now, obviously, as I mentioned, this is my demo tenant. Now, delegated admin partners is where you kind of have all your Microsoft partners that have been authorized to administer your Microsoft services in your tenant using that delegated administrator. So normally you'll find like your CSP partners, or if you've got like a billing partner of some sort, or if you've got like for big enterprise organizations, you might have like third parties managing your tenant for you. So this is where, rather than giving them access or giving them accounts, and giving them permissions within your own tenant, you actually delegate their home tenant permissions within here. So this is where they'll be. So they can actually manage your tenancy with their own accounts, rather than giving them access, or even rather than creating them accounts within your tenant under your domain, and also rather than giving them like sort of guest access. If you have partners that are going to be managing your services, and it's best to do delegated administrator. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to configure anything here, but I want to explain what delegated admin partners are, and sort of use cases that you would use them. So especially for like CSP partners, just wanted to touch on some probably best practices. Now, especially with roles, you need to really define and plan who you are giving access to within your sort of tenant. That's why it's always best practice to use Azure AD roles, and make sure you can. But for ones where you're not sure, rather than giving somebody access to 2 different roles, create a custom role. I tend to go with custom roles, if I'm honest with you. It's always best, in my opinion, in sort of my experience, it's better to create custom roles, so you can really be granular with the access that you're giving. Because again, we're trying to follow that least privilege access and that zero trust sort of concept. So although sometimes that you might think, oh, you know what, giving them access to 2 roles. I'd probably recommend as a best practice to customize a role so you don't put in the sort of access that they don't need from that specific role. That's kind of a best practice for me, and sort of from my own experience dealing with identity and role assignment. As I mentioned, we are going to look at the difference between Active Directory roles, Azure Active Directory roles, sorry, and Azure roles, resource roles specifically. So that is essentially the end of today's video. So don't forget, there is a giveaway of the Managing Kubernetes Resource Using Helm by Andrew Block and Austin Dewey. So again, I've done it. I'll put the description video in the link to the video in my description. Again, to enter, you need to be a subscriber already. You need to like the video and comment on the video, the hashtag IamITGeek. You also need to share this video on your socials, be it Twitter or LinkedIn, again, and put the hashtag IamITGeek, and that'll make you eligible to win that prize. And again, I will, as the weeks go on, I will pick out and announce the winners, and I'll contact them obviously and get organised sending them the video. So thank you very much for watching. All my socials are in the description as well. A link to the Microsoft Learn docs for what we've spoken about today is also in the description. So thank you for watching. Until next time, goodbye.